September 14th, 1942.
Occupied France.
2:17 hours. The aircraft has already gone. Its engine noise fades into the low clouds, leaving only the wind and the smell of damp earth. In a field bordered by hedgerows, 3 figures crouch in the dark, listening. One of them, a man in a worn civilian coat with a pistol tucked awkwardly at his waist, signals with 2 fingers. Move. They cross the field quickly, boots sinking into soft ground. A parachute lies collapsed ahead of them, white silk glowing faintly in the moonlight. Beneath it, a wooden crate, stenciled with meaningless numbers. No markings. No flags. Nothing that admits where it came from. The man pries it open with a crowbar. Inside are weapons. They are not beautiful. They are not polished. The metal looks unfinished. The welds crude. The grips thin and uncomfortable. One of the men lifts a gun and turns it over in his hands, frowning. "This is it?" he whispers. It weighs almost nothing. The resistance fighter has used pistols before. He has fired captured German rifles, heavy and precise. This looks like it was built in a garage. The magazine sticks out the side at a strange angle. There is no wooden stock, just a tube of steel. Feels wrong. And yet, within weeks, weapons exactly like this will be killing German soldiers across occupied Europe. This is the STEN gun, and it was designed to be weak. To understand why Britain built a weapon like this, you have to rewind 2 years, to a moment when the war is going disastrously wrong. June 1940. Dunkirk. The British Army is not retreating. It is being torn out of France by the sea. Soldiers abandon vehicles, artillery, radios, anything that slows them down. Hundreds of thousands escape, but they leave their weapons behind. When they return to Britain, they are alive. They are also almost unarmed. Britain faces an impossible equation. Germany controls the continent. An invasion is expected. Britain needs weapons, millions of them, and it needs them fast. Not in years. Not in months. In weeks. But Britain's industrial capacity is strained. Skilled labor is limited. Precision machining takes time they do not have. The elegant submachine guns of the era, finely milled, tightly toleranced, are too slow, too expensive, too complicated. The country does not need a perfect weapon. It needs something it can make immediately. Inside a nondescript building in England, a small team begins work on a gun that breaks every assumption about firearm design. They strip the problem down to its bare essentials. Does it need to look good? No. Does it need to be comfortable? No. Does it need to last decades? No. It needs to fire. It needs to be cheap. It needs to be fast to produce. Everything else is optional. The result is a weapon built almost entirely from stamped steel tubing. No fine wood. No complex machining. Parts welded together instead of carefully fitted. A simple blowback mechanism that can be explained in minutes. The gun fires a common 9mm cartridge, ammunition already widespread across Europe. This is not elegance. This is desperation turned into design. When the first prototypes are tested, the flaws are obvious. The gun jams. The magazine feed is unreliable. The tolerances are sloppy. Mud and dirt can cripple it. Traditionalists scoff. Engineers complain. Soldiers are skeptical. But none of that stops production. Because the STEN is not meant to win shooting competitions. It is meant to exist. Factories that once made bicycles, plumbing fittings, even toys are repurposed. Small workshops begin turning out gun parts. Assembly requires minimal training. Quality control is flexible. By late 1941, STEN guns are rolling off production lines at a rate that would have been impossible with any conventional design. Britain is arming itself again. And then the weapon finds its real purpose. Not in the hands of frontline British troops, but in the shadows. The war behind enemy lines is growing. Resistance movements form in France, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland. They need weapons that can be smuggled, hidden, taught quickly, and replaced without regret. The STEN is perfect, can be broken down easily. It is light enough to carry across fields and forests. If one is lost, it is not a tragedy, it is a statistic. Dropped by parachute in wooden crates, The STEN spreads quietly across occupied Europe. Fighters who have never handled a military firearm learn to use it in minutes. Squeeze. Run. That is all it asks of them. Back in that French field, the resistance fighter finishes checking the crate. He hands the STEN to another man and gestures toward the trees. They disappear into the darkness. Within days, the gun that felt cheap and wrong will ambush a German patrol. It will fire in short, brutal bursts. It may jam, but it will fire enough. And that will be enough. Because the STEN was never designed to be loved. It was designed to be everywhere. October 3rd, 1942. Enfield, England. 6:40 hours. The factory floor smells of oil, hot metal, and stale tea. There is no ceremony here. No banners. Just rows of benches and men in rolled-up sleeves working quickly. Their movements practiced and unglamorous. A length of steel tubing is cut. Another is welded. A bolt is dropped into place. A STEN gun is born. Takes minutes. That fact alone would horrify most pre-war weapons designers. Guns were supposed to be precision instruments, carefully machined, tightly toleranced, reliable under controlled conditions. The STEN ignores all of that. It is designed around the assumption that perfection is impossible and unnecessary. The goal is not reliability in the laboratory. The goal is sufficiency in chaos. The core of the STEN is brutally simple. A straight steel tube housing a heavy bolt. No locking mechanism. No gas system. When the trigger is pulled, the bolt slams forward under spring pressure, strips a round from the magazine, fires it, and is blown backward by recoil. It is violent. It is crude. It works most of the time. The weaknesses are obvious. The side-mounted magazine creates feeding problems. The thin metal flexes under stress. Dirt can turn a functioning weapon into dead weight. But every one of those flaws is tolerated because fixing them would cost time. And time is the one resource Britain does not have. British planners are making a cold calculation. A perfect weapon produced slowly loses wars. An imperfect weapon produced in overwhelming numbers can change them. The STEN is not meant to replace rifles. It is not meant for long-range accuracy or sustained firefights. It is a tool for close-range violence, ambushes, and sudden eruptions of fire. Urban alleys, forest paths, train platforms at night, places where battles are decided in seconds, not hours. This philosophy shapes everything about how the STEN is distributed. British troops receive it as a stopgap, something to carry until better arms arrive. Many complain. Some modify it in the field, adding grips, stocks, anything to make it feel less like a skeleton of a gun. But resistance fighters view it differently. To them, the STEN is not compared to better weapons. It is compared to having nothing. Training manuals for the STEN are famously short. No complex drills. No marksmanship theory. No emphasis on maintenance beyond, keep it clean if you can. The instructions assume the user may never have fired a gun before, and may never fire one again after tonight. This is not a soldier's weapon. It is a civilian's weapon forced into war. The British Special Operations Executive understands this better than anyone. Their mission is not battlefield victory, it is disruption, sabotage, confusion, attrition. They do not need resistance fighters to survive prolonged engagements. They need them to strike, vanish, and leave chaos behind. The STEN fits that doctrine perfectly. If it jams after the ambush, the fight is already over. If it breaks, it can be thrown away. If it is captured, it reveals little about Allied capabilities. Even its cheapness is a form of camouflage. German intelligence officers examining captured STENs often dismiss them as inferior junk. Crude, amateurish, not worth serious concern. That dismissal is fatal. As production accelerates, the STEN spreads beyond Britain. Canadian factories begin manufacturing it. Australian workshops adapt the design. Variants appear, some slightly improved, others even cruder. None of them aim for perfection. They aim for multiplication. By 1943, hundreds of thousands of STEN guns exist. They are not concentrated in elite units. They are scattered, hidden in barns, buried in fields, smuggled across borders, dropped from the sky. The STEN does not dominate a battlefield. It infests it. Back in occupied Europe, resistance cells adjust their tactics around the weapon's limitations. They plan short engagements. They avoid sustained fire. They carry pistols as backup in case the STEN fails. But they also learn its strengths. At close range, the STEN is devastating. In automatic fire, it overwhelms small patrols. In the dark, accuracy matters less than volume. German soldiers begin to fear sudden eruptions of gunfire from alleys and forests. Bursts that vanish as quickly as they appear. They rarely see the shooter. They almost never catch them. The STEN's reputation grows, not as a reliable gun, but as a symbol. It is the sound of resistance, the noise of occupation being challenged, the proof that Britain is still in the fight, even in places it cannot openly reach. All because someone decided that weakness was acceptable, that imperfection could be weaponized. The resistance fighter in France learns this lesson quickly. He does not clean the STEN obsessively. He does not baby it. He treats it as what it is, a tool for a single violent moment. When the moment comes, it works. And that is all that matters. February 11th, 1943.
Lyon, occupied France.
1942 hours. Snow melts into slush along the curb. Streetlights glow dimly under blackout hoods. A German staff car idles at an intersection, its engine ticking softly, exhaust drifting into the cold air. Across the street, a young man waits in the doorway of a shuttered shop. He is not wearing a uniform. He has never attended basic training. His hands are shaking, not from the cold, but from the weight hidden beneath his coat. The STEN hangs from a crude sling, metal cold against his ribs. He has been told one thing and one thing only: get close, then fire. The STEN gun reshapes resistance warfare because it does not demand soldiers. It demands proximity. Traditional infantry weapons assume discipline, training, and coordination. The STEN assumes none of that. It assumes fear. It assumes confusion. It assumes the user may have only seconds of courage before instinct takes over. British planners understand this. They do not imagine resistance fighters holding ground or forming units. They imagine moments, brief, violent ruptures in the order of occupation. A guard eliminated. Convoy ambushed. An officer killed in front of witnesses. The STEN is built for moments like these. Resistance training is minimal by necessity. In safe houses and forest clearings, instructors demonstrate the weapon in minutes. How to load the magazine. How to pull the bolt back. How to squeeze the trigger. No emphasis on accuracy beyond 10 meters. No lectures on maintenance under fire. No illusions about survivability. Fire. Move. Disappear. That is the doctrine. The gun's weaknesses actively shape tactics. Because the STEN is prone to jamming, resistance fighters avoid prolonged engagements. They strike at close range, often within a few meters, where volume of fire matters more than precision. Because the magazine sticks out sideways, the gun is awkward in tight spaces, but that same shape allows it to be hidden under coats and inside bags. Because the gun is cheap, it is treated as expendable. Fighters abandon it without hesitation after an attack, dumping it into rivers or burying it in rubble. No serial numbers lead back to factories. No loss is mourned. The weapon does not need to survive. The mission does. In cities like Paris, Lyon, and Brussels, the STEN becomes the sound of sudden terror. German patrols learn that narrow streets are dangerous, that doorways are threats, that civilians may be armed, not with rifles but with something smaller, faster, and unpredictable. Occupation becomes exhausting, and exhaustion breeds mistakes. German reports begin to note a pattern. Attacks are short. Attackers escape quickly. Weapons recovered are crude submachine guns of British origin. They label the STEN unreliable. They are correct, and completely wrong about what that means. The psychological effect of the STEN far outweighs its mechanical quality. German soldiers cannot tell who is armed. They cannot tell when an attack will come. They cannot tell if the weapon will fail or flood the street with bullets. That uncertainty forces them to overreact. More patrols, more checkpoints, More strain on already thin manpower. A weak gun multiplies pressure across the entire occupation apparatus. Back at the intersection in Lyon, the staff car begins to move. The resistance fighter steps forward, heart pounding so hard it feels audible. He raises the STEN, the metal rattling softly as he brings it level. For a fraction of a second, the world narrows to the trigger. He fires. The burst is short, brutal, deafening in the confined street. The car lurches. Shouts erupt. Windows shatter. Then he runs. He drops the STEN into a doorway and vanishes into an alley, swallowed by the city. The gun lies where it falls, cheap, crude, and already obsolete. But the message has been delivered. Across Europe, thousands of moments like this accumulate. None of them win the war alone. All of them erode the enemy. The STEN does not defeat German divisions. It makes occupation impossible to control. And that, quietly, is how wars are won. June 5, 1944. Southern England. 23:31 hours. The airfield is dark except for hooded lights and the faint glow of cigarettes cupped in gloved hands. Paratroopers stand beside aircraft, checking straps, touching helmets, adjusting weapons by feel rather than sight. Many of those weapons are STEN guns. They are not carried because they are loved. They are carried because they fit the war that is about to happen. On the eve of the Normandy invasion, British planners face a familiar problem, one they now understand intimately. Airborne troops will land scattered. Units will be fragmented. Fighting will happen at night, in hedgerows, farmyards, and villages. Precision is a luxury. Control is a fantasy. The STEN is chosen not despite its flaws, but because of them. It is light enough for a paratrooper already burdened with explosives and equipment. It fires a cartridge readily available across Europe. It delivers overwhelming fire at close range, the only kind of fighting airborne troops can expect in the first hours after landing. If it jams, there will be other weapons. If it breaks, it will not slow the advance. The STEN has taught British doctrine something uncomfortable but valuable. In modern war, the perfect tool often arrives too late. Across occupied Europe, resistance networks intensify their actions as the invasion approaches. Rail lines are sabotaged. Communications disrupted. German units are harassed constantly. The STEN is everywhere. It appears in hands that should not have weapons. It vanishes before retaliation arrives. It leaves behind bodies, confusion, and fear. German commanders respond the only way they can, by increasing security everywhere. And that is exactly what the Allies want. Every guard watching a railway bridge is one less soldier on the beaches. Every patrol chasing shadows is one less unit responding to the real attack. The STEN's weakness has become strategic gravity. It pulls enemy attention outward, thinning defenses at the critical moment. The weapon's reputation among Allied soldiers remains conflicted. Some curse it, some modify it, some replace it as soon as they can. But no one misunderstands its purpose anymore. The STEN is not a gun you trust with your life in a long fight. It is a gun you trust to exist when nothing else does. By late 1944, the logic behind the STEN spreads beyond Britain. American planners study its production model. Soviet designers arrive at similar conclusions independently, favoring mass production, loose tolerances, and simplicity over craftsmanship. The age of handcrafted battlefield perfection is ending. The age of industrial sufficiency has arrived. For resistance fighters, the STEN becomes something else entirely. Not just a weapon, but proof. Proof that the Allies have not forgotten them. Proof that occupation is temporary. Proof that power does not always look impressive. The gun's very ugliness becomes symbolic. It does not belong to parades or monuments. It belongs to alleys, forests, and moments history rarely records. In a cellar in the Netherlands, a group of resistance fighters clean a STEN by candlelight. The metal is scarred. The welds uneven. It rattles when shaken. They do not complain. Tomorrow it will be used once more. Tomorrow it may be lost forever. And tomorrow that will still be enough. Because the STEN has already done what it was built to do. It changed how war is fought. May 2, 1945. Hamburg, Germany. Morning. The city is silent in a way that only comes after defeat. Smoke hangs low over shattered streets. German soldiers move without urgency now. Weapons slung loosely, eyes hollow. The war is finished, it just hasn't been announced everywhere yet. In the rubble of a bombed-out building, an Allied infantryman kicks aside debris and stops. Half buried in dust and brick fragments lies a familiar shape. A STEN gun. Bent. Scratched. Abandoned. It looks exactly like it always did, cheap, unfinished, forgettable. And yet it is everywhere. By the end of the war, more than 4 million STEN guns have been produced. They have been carried by British troops, paratroopers, commandos, resistance fighters, and civilians who never expected to fight a war. Most of them will never fire a single shot. Many will jam. Some will get their users killed. And still, the STEN is one of the most consequential weapons of World War II, because its value was never measured in craftsmanship or reliability. It was measured in scale. The STEN solved a problem that no traditional weapon could. It allowed a nation under threat to rearm itself almost immediately. It allowed resistance movements to grow without waiting for perfect conditions. It allowed warfare to spread into spaces the enemy could not fully control. Factories could be bombed. Supply lines could be cut. Elite units could be destroyed. But as long as steel tubing, springs, and ammunition existed, the STEN could be made again. That was its true strength. German post-war analysis struggles to account for this. On paper, the STEN is inferior to German submachine guns. In controlled tests, it performs worse. In engineering terms, it is a compromise bordering on negligence. But war is not a test range. War is time pressure, fear, exhaustion, and scarcity. And under those conditions, the STEN thrived. More importantly, it changed how planners thought about weapons. Before the war, arms were designed for soldiers. After the STEN, arms could be designed for situations, for collapse, for improvisation, for mass resistance. The idea that a weapon could be disposable, expected to be lost, abandoned, or destroyed, was radical. The STEN made it normal. For resistance fighters, the gun was never about winning battles. It was about choice. The choice to fight. The choice to resist. The choice to act instead of wait. The STEN did not promise survival. Promised opportunity. And in occupied Europe, that was enough. Today, museum displays polish the STEN until it almost looks respectable. The welds are cleaned. The metal restored. It is presented like a finished product. It never was. It was a tool built for a moment when nothing else would do. A weapon designed to be weak, to be cheap, to be everywhere. And by embracing weakness instead of fighting it, Britain gained something far more powerful than perfection. It gained time. It gained numbers. It gained momentum. The STEN did not win the war by being good. It helped win the war by being enough.